I, 29 female, have a civil relationship with my ex, 29 male, despite him cheating on me with my sister, 32 female. My sister is now demanding I have a relationship with her too. I, 29 female, I'm the youngest of 4. I have a brother, 35 male, and twin siblings, 32 male and 32 female. This is about my sister. Buckle up, this is a long one. From the moment I could remember, my sister has always hated me. Not the typical hate between siblings, but true hate. Everything I did she had to outdo, every boy I liked she had to have first. She has gone out of her way to bully me more times than I can remember. The only people who stepped in were my brothers. My father was absent due to his work, and my mother clearly had a favorite, and that wasn't me. I learned early on that I needed to protect myself, and if it wasn't for my brother and best friend, 29 male, I'm pretty sure my self-esteem would have plummeted. The stories I have relating to my sisters and mother's abuse could be written into a novel, and there's far too many. Anyway, fast forward to my college days when I kept low contact with my mother and no contact with my sister. I met a guy. We dated for 2 years. We fell in love, the usual stuff. Then on the day of my graduation party, I caught him and my sister doing the nasty in the guest house. Well, that partly quickly turned into a disaster. Turns out their affair had been going on for 4 months and she claimed to be in love with him and was carrying his child. Mother begged me, literally this woman begged me, to let my boyfriend go, to make that sacrifice for my only sister. Her literal words, by the way. By the time that party was over, my ex barely escaped without getting beaten to death by my brothers, uncles, and my one crazy aunt. Love that woman. I did even in fact break up with him on the spot, but not for my sister or mother, but because he betrayed me. I knew I couldn't trust him, and thanks to the wonderful support system I have, I knew I deserved better. After that disaster, I moved to the other side of the country to begin my new job. Now, I'm highly in demand in my field due to my degrees and specialties, which has allowed me to rise up in the ranks quite quickly and earn far more than I could spend as I live in a rather modest way, with the only thing I splurge on being trips and food. In those 7 years living away from most of my family, I haven't spoken to my mother or sister. I almost cut my dad off too for being too impartial, but he ended up divorcing my mother and realized how many times he failed to stand up for me during my childhood, all thanks to my brothers, by the way. He begged to reconnect a few months after my graduation party, and we've had a strong relationship since, just as I always have with my brothers. The whole family basically abandoned my mother and sister, and only kept contact for the sake of the child, a child they've attempted to use as leverage in many cases, but that's a story for another time. My ex had a little sister, one which I adored and dearly missed with the time away. About a year when I left our hometown, she contacted me via Instagram. She was attending college in my state and expressed how much she missed me, and after a few messages along with a coffee date, we reconnected. She kept me updated on the saga that was my sister and her brother's relationship, not that I asked her to. I quickly found out her brother dumped my sister after the child was born. Apparently, he wanted to wait until his child was born to not cause my sister stress, which would cause pregnancy issues. They have been maintaining a strict co-parenting relationship ever since, which my sister hated. She's even attempted to keep his child away from him, but my ex's family is disgustingly wealthy, so the lawyer stepped in, and strict protocols were put in place to guarantee both parents did their part. I met my sister's child through my ex's sister. I've gone over to her house after work with the intentions of going out to dinner, but she had texted me to cancel the plans. But my phone died, and when I arrived at her apartment, I was surprised with not only with my ex, but the love child too. And guys, the moment I met her, I simply fell in love. I had seen pictures through my family, but they were nothing compared to the real thing. My older brother has 2 kids, which I spoil at any given chance. May it be gifts, trips, or even just stocking up on their favorite beauty supplies. If they wanted it, I got it. I got the money and it never hurt my bank account. I've even organized various trips for the entire family with only my niece missing, and my sister would refuse to let her come with us without her. After seeing how frustrated my family was with my mother and sister for using my niece as a bargaining chip, I put away my pride and contacted my ex. I asked if it was okay if his daughter would join us on said trips. Immediately, he was delighted, because his daughter had expressed feelings of being left out from our side of the family, something we've never wanted. Ever since that agreement, my ex and I would plan out when the little cousins would get together for their trips. Then over the years, our relationship had turned civil. The civil agreement I had with my ex had been kept a secret from my sister. My brothers, along with my father and extended family, agreed it was for the best, as the hatred my sister held for us was hindering her child's happiness. But she recently found out after snooping through a family's Instagram page and seeing her daughter with us on a trip to Disneyland. She confronted us at my brother's house when he was hosting a barbecue. She demanded the same level of respect and forgiveness I gave to my ex, and when I refused, she called me a hypocrite and a-hole. Truth be told, I have forgiven my ex, and my sister too, for everything they've done to me. However, I simply don't want my sister in my life, and my family agrees. They've all had their fair share of drama with her and my mother. They've burned down far too many bridges, and if it wasn't for my niece, they would have been cut off too from the family. I could have been somewhat civil to my sister after the affair. However, unlike my ex, she acted as if I was the affair partner, as if I was the one who stole everything from her. She's never once apologized, took the blame, or even have a little shame. I don't want anything to do with her. I barely want a relationship with my ex, but he understands I'm only doing this for my niece. I don't want her to feel unwanted and unloved, and with her mother being my sister and her grandmother being my mother, she has a very high chance of that. I do, however, want to keep my niece happy, and perhaps her relationship with her mother may do that? Now for the top advice. There is no way, there is never a way to have a healthy relationship with people like your sister. Even trying would just make her get even more demanding, and would start her trying to use her daughter as a weapon to control you the way she did your ex. Honestly, I discussed this with your ex, since he's been the one your arrangement is with, and he also has experience dealing with your sister's BS. Tell him you want to continue your relationship with your niece, but don't want any trouble starting with her mother. So you leave it up to him to decide how to navigate the situation. I've had this discussion with my ex. He's more than happy to keep it going, but I feel as though it will only cause more issues in the future. My family and I have come to an agreement to let this whole thing play out without interferences. As much as we want our niece to feel included in the family, we fear our sister would do something crazy just to prevent that. Nah, your ex has legal rights and a good lawyer. She tries to pull something up, she'll end up losing more stuff. She knows this. OP, your sister is just going to use and manipulate you again, as she has done so much in the past. When your brothers are saying to stay away from her, listen to them since they are closer to everything than you are. You are best off simply going through your ex to see your niece. Your sister is simply toxic. You can tell your sister that you forgave her long ago, but you'll never trust her, and she'll never be your friend. I'm thinking of just keeping my distance. If my niece decides she wants to have a relationship with me when she's 18, then I'll make contact then. I just didn't want her growing up thinking her mother's family didn't love her. It's a crappy feeling, and with the poison her grandmother and mother are definitely feeding to her, I can very well see her hating her cousins and uncles and aunties when she's older. You need to be careful for not letting them turning her like your sister, and do the same stuff to her cousins. The father has his rights and time with his daughter, so when he has her, spend family time with her and don't care about those two crazies. You have the support of all the family, so do it. And if your supposed mother and sister continue to attack you, go through legal actions and they will shut it. I think you need to butt out completely. This is not your child, and you are stepping out of your lane. If your mother did what you were doing, this would be all over just no mother-in-law, with everybody saying your mother was overstepping her lane and she had no rights to that child. Right or wrong, none of you have a right to time with that child. What you are doing is called parental alienation. As for your sister, she is clearly a piece of work. Tell her to get lost, but leave her child alone. Last story. Told my sister she doesn't deserve to be a mother on Mother's Day. I, 19 female, told my sister, 30 female, that she doesn't deserve to be a mother on Mother's Day. My nephew is currently 3 years old, and she barely treats him like a son, but rather an accessory. She's constantly in social media, flaunting her motherhood. She tells people it's so hard to be a single mom, when that's something she absolutely chose for herself. She decided to get pregnant on her own, and cut ties with a father who wanted to be there for my nephew. Just recently, my sister left for another state to work on herself and her finances. She left my nephew with my parents and it's been hard for everyone. She gradually stopped calling us frequently and starts up an argument with my parents when they ask her for money to get him things he needs, such as diapers, wipes, food, etc. She tells them she doesn't need to pay them for those things because that's their grandson. And if she keeps giving them money all the time, then she left his state for no reason because she'll have no money to provide for them when she gets back. It's infuriating. As she does this, she posts on social media about how she's in the best position of her life, how her mental health is improving, and she's living the life as a single mom. She has a bit of a temper when confronted, so I've always held back on giving my opinion. But just before Mother's Day came around, my dad offered to take my nephew to her so she could be with her son. Mind you, she hasn't seen him in around 4 months. My dad asked her for the address and just stopped answering him. I messaged her and asked her where she was, and she replied that she was in a further state than she previously said. It seemed as if she didn't want to get a visit from my dad and her son. When Mother's Day came around, she posted a celebration with her friends at a club. I deserve this. Happy Mother's Day to me. I got fed up with this and told her she didn't deserve to be a mother. I told her that she doesn't deserve to have such a beautiful son, and he's going to absolutely hate her and forget her when he begins to understand why she isn't around. My parents said I was wrong about this. Edit, I'd like to make a few things clear. The father is not in the picture. He met my nephew just once when he was 1. He had the interest to be in his life to create one with my sister, not for the well-being of my nephew. He's just as bad, I believe. My parents definitely do enable her toxic behaviors, which is why this is such a complex case. Although she's 30, she acts like a child. She acts very entitled to my parents' money and help, which has made it easy for her to abandon my nephew to them. My mom loves my nephew like he's her own son, and the reason they got upset with me was because they didn't want me to challenge her to come back. My nephew prefers my mother much more. Their bond is inseparable, and everyone's afraid of her taking him away. They want to get a lawyer involved, and while it may sound like a simple solution, the trauma that comes with it is absolutely terrible for him. They don't want him to feel nothing less than a loved and cherished boy. He's a great boy. He's very loving and sensitive. Although he can't fully understand what's going on, he feels it. He has attachment issues with my mother. It's noticeable he's afraid she'll abandon him too. I hope you said that on her social media account for all her followers to see. I would love nothing more, but she blocked me and everything. Your sister sounds absolutely horrific. Just had a kid, as you said, to have as an accessory. It's disgusting when people do this. I know it's hard for your parents, but I would go to court and get full custody of the boy. That way, whenever your sister does come back, she can't use him anymore. Or if your parents don't want to do that, maybe get the boy's father in the picture, if he still wants to be a father. But I definitely think court needs to be involved. She doesn't even want him to visit her. That's just disgusting. I talked to my dad about this, and they're seriously considering taking custody of my nephew. Since she left, he's been struggling emotionally. He hasn't spoken a word, and although she's not around, she completely protests the idea of therapy. They want to place take him, but they can't do that without her permission apparently. So in the best interest of him, that may very well be happening sometime in the future. She literally abandoned him. I wouldn't think the courts would allow the decision to be up to her at this point. If she hasn't seen her kid in 4 months, moved far away, and won't say where, it's time to file for custody. This will clear up everything really quick. Mom will come and get the kid, show up to court, or she won't and will pay child support. Maybe then the dad can be involved in his life too. Good luck. The fact that she refuses to give an address to where she currently is means you need to send copies to her last known address. This actually works in the petitioner's favor. Parents need to file for emergency custody with all the text messages, any social media posts you all can find, and if there are any Venmos you can. You all cannot even get him medical attention if he becomes sick and needs a doctor. That's the thing. She lived with my parents prior to moving away. As soon as she got pregnant, she moved in and had my parents take care of her financially. She was living off of my parents up until she decided that she needed to get away from here and work for a better life for her and my nephew. Well then, I guess she should have supplied a current address, because if your parents' home is still her only known residence, then the paperwork would be sent there. I would do a cursory search for a name/address based on the states she's claimed to be in, but if nothing comes up, that's her fault. An emergency order is normally done on the day it's filed with the courts. In the address section, your parents can also just write unknown. The court may attempt to call her during the hearing, but if she doesn't pick up, they're not going to waste time waiting more than that day. The order will be temporary, and they can get paperwork to file for more permanent custody while there. Child services may be called in during the emergency custody period to assess an attempt to track down both biological parents. But if y'all don't know who the father is and she refuses to name him, then the decision will be whether to keep him with your parents or your sister, if she even wants him. Am I the a-hole for not opening the door to my sister's kids? I'm 23 female and the third born in our 4-kid family. Me, along with my younger brother by 1 year, are child-free as we're not exactly a big fan of kids and get annoyed by them easily. My sister has 2 kids, 5 female and 3 male. They're alright, but their constant screaming and crying gets on my nerves. They're also very spoiled and don't like the word no. I have said many times that I'm not good with kids. I don't really want to look after any as I get annoyed by them easily, but I just got shrugged off. My sister found that trend on TikTok, where parents leave their kids outside of a family member's house, knock on the door and get in the car and only leave when the door opens and leaving the kids there. She finds it funny while I don't. I think it's inconsiderate and also dangerous. My sister laughed at me and said, maybe I'll do this on you. I told her not to because I won't answer the door even if I was inside. She told me that she'll just leave the kids there and I'll be forced to look after them. I said that I still wouldn't open the door and would call the police on her. She just laughed it off. I had a weekend off from work and planned to enjoy it by relaxing in my apartment where I turned my second bedroom into an art studio and planned to do some art pieces and working on my story. I woke up on Saturday morning quite early and enjoyed the peace and quiet until I got a knock at my door. I have a camera outside of my door facing it just in case something bad happens, and there's an app for it on my phone. I checked and saw that it was my sister's kids. I knew then that she was trying to pull that stupid TikTok trend and got angry. But I kept my word like I told her before and didn't answer the door. More knocks came and my sister tried to call me, and when I didn't answer her, she kept texting me to open the door. I texted her to get her kids and leave, as I told her that I wouldn't look after them and she knew I wanted the weekend to myself. She just kept texting me to open the door. 20 minutes go by, I don't know why she waited that long, and she texted me that she was leaving and for me to open my door to babysit them. I texted her back that if she didn't come back right now, that I'm calling the police. I got no answer from her and called the police. 2 officers came to my house while another 2 tracked down my sister and made her drive to my place. She stomped out of her car, screaming at what a horrible sister I am and why it's no wonder I am single and will die alone. She finally gets her kids back into her car and drives off, the police following after, and I get back to my weekend off. My sister screamed at our family about what I had done, and there have been mixed reviews, saying that I was entitled to have my time off by myself, and others saying that she's a mother and deserves a break every now and then. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Strangely, I don't have an issue with this. Calling the cops was the nuclear option, but you flat out said what you would do. Yes, your sister might want some time off, but there's a thing for that. It's called hire a sitter. Dropping them off, and for all she knew you weren't even home. Totally irresponsible. You're right. Even if you gave in, she'd be pulling this all the time. In this case, I wouldn't say it's a nuclear option. It's a sensible thing to do to ensure the kids' safety if the mother just flat out left them. I agree on the safety of the kids. It's nuclear in that calling the cops on a family member has permanent ramifications, both in that she now has a record if there's another incident. She deserves a record for leaving her kids unattended outside someone's home when she told her she wasn't going to watch the kids. They are her kids and her responsibility, and she's negligent for leaving them there. There should be a record, and she deserved what she got. Not the a-hole. It's not a question of her needing a break. It's a question about dumping her kids on someone who doesn't want to babysit them. I've heard about this thing. And not only is it incredibly rude, but it can also be dangerous if the parents drive off before the door is opened. Anyway, you told your sister you wouldn't babysit them and you'd call the police if she left. Then you didn't babysit them and you called the police when she left. Seems pretty clear to me that she's the a-hole in this. This Who leaves their children with someone who has clearly stated they don't like children and they did not want to look after the children? She seriously needs to have a look at herself. What she did is not okay. You are not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit ever, paid or unpaid? I am the youngest of 4 children at 21. My husband and I are wanting to wait around 4 more years to have children, so I'm not child-free, I just don't have any. I have 12 nieces and nephews. My siblings all have a lot of kids. All of my siblings are also single, divorced, or never married. They have always asked me to babysit, and I've always said no. None of them know how to discipline their kids. Their kids will lie, steal, bite each other, etc., and just being around them is hard. My oldest brother has offered to pay me to babysit, but the other 2 want me to do it for free. I refuse all 3. My entire family thinks I'm an a-hole for never babysitting, so I've told them if I wanted to watch kids, I'd have some. My sister wanted to go on a date the other day and no one would watch her 6 kids. I told her, too bad. She said she'll never find a nice man to settle down with if she can't go out. I said she's delusional. It is not my problem. Am I the a-hole for never babysitting under any circumstances? Edit. When I do have children, I absolutely will not ask any of them to babysit. I'd rather pay a professional. My sister wanted to go on a date the other day and no one would watch her 6 kids. I told her too bad. She said she'll never find a nice man to settle down with if she can't go out. I think I see her problem here. You could probably babysit for her every night for the next year, and I doubt she will find a nice man who wants to settle down with her and her 6 kids. Not the a-hole. LMAO. Yeah, she's a mess. My least favorite sibling. Just out of curiosity, how many fathers between those kids? They each have a different father. You're doing those kids a favor every time you don't help your sister procreate again. Their chances in life are already pretty ruined. Have you at all considered adopting any of these children that are likely living in squalor? I've considered taking my sister's oldest. He's 14, almost 15, and is always forced to watch his younger siblings, 1 to 9 years old. But my sister would never let me take her free babysitter, to be honest. Not the a-hole. It sounds like they should all be investing in a good babysitter, nanny, housekeeper, etc. I've taken care of kids in many different capacities, but there's not enough money in the world to have me babysit 6 kids solo. Well, they all complain because none of them can afford childcare, because of how many kids they have. I do feel bad, but I also feel like they made a choice. Yeah, if they can't afford to have kids or can't afford to take care of their kids, then they should stop having kids. Lol, that's not your fault. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to invite my 9-year-old nephew to my wedding? My fiancé and I both had a discussion and both agreed that we don't want my nephew at our wedding, which will be happening in 2 months. The reason why is because my nephew is out of control. He doesn't listen, can't sit still for even a minute, and is loud. My nephew even ruined my dress. I am a fashion designer and made my own wedding dress. And one day my sister came over and invited with my nephew and niece. I invited them both in, but told them all to not go in my office as I'm working on something in there, which was my dress. My nephew goes in there and cuts my dress with a pair of my fabric scissors on purpose, while I was in the kitchen getting them some snacks and my niece was playing with my daughter. My sister didn't even make him apologize and blamed it on me for leaving my scissor in the open in a room he wasn't even supposed to be in. There have been many times where my nephew been banned from events because of his behavior. My sister has a hard time even getting babysitters for him, and my nephew even gotten suspended from school on multiple occasions. She still hasn't done anything about his behavior. When I told my sister, she freaked out saying that if her son's not allowed to go, then she won't be going, and asked me if I was banning our brother's son as well. She made a Facebook post about how I hate my nephew and I'm not inviting him to my wedding over a dress and complained to our mom. My mom agrees with my sister and says that it's unfair for me to invite my niece, but not my nephew, and that I'm gonna make my nephew feel like there is something wrong with him. My brother agrees with me and thinks it will make my sister think about actually doing something about her son's behavior, rather than pretending like there was nothing wrong. I know how my nephew is, and I don't want his behavior to risk the day I worked so hard in planning. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I think you should accept your sister's offer to not attend. Okay, thanks. Bye. Not the a-hole. And I would respond to her social media posts explaining his age, behavior, and her complete lack of control and discipline of the child. I wouldn't. Most people see through this type of vitriol and it just comes across as immature. I'd be completely silent and let the sister spew. If people ask in private, explain the situation calmly and with remorse. Not the a-hole. And given that your sister covered for your nephew who is way too old to accidentally use scissors on other people's stuff, then having her boycott and protest is fitting. She can make her choice, raise an undisciplined child or not, but you, hopefully, only get one wedding, and you don't need a wild kid messing it up, nor do you need this drama. I had to go back to the title to read his age, and was surprised he was 9. I could picture a 3 to 5-year-old doing that, but at 9? He should have enough self-control. He knew what he was doing and is acting out, not the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to stop seeing my daughter over her sister? I'm 56 female and my husband Kurt, 59 male, have 2 daughters. Ruth, 32, and June, 30. 8 years ago, Ruth split up with her college boyfriend Adam, 32. They'd been together since she was 20 or 21 and it was as serious as a college relationship could be. About 5 years ago, June announced that she reconnected with Adam at some alumni get-together. They'd all gone to the same university and that they are now dating. Of course, Kurt and I were shocked that she would do this despite her sister's history with him. But she insisted that they were in love and she can't help that. And that Ruth and Adam hadn't been together in years, so she hasn't done anything wrong. Ruth understandably was enraged over it. She said she was done with June and would never see her again. This broke me. They were so close growing up, and I prayed every day they'd reconcile. But I accepted they're adults who can make their own choices, and it has nothing to do with us. Kurt and I were also very disappointed with June and told her off many times. But after she proved that there was never any cheating involved while Ruth and Adam were together, things between us settled down. Out of respect for Ruth's feelings, we never brought the girls together again. Ruth and June visit us separately and still aren't on speaking terms after 5 years, but we maintained our relationships with them. Now, June and Adam are married. Ruth has also moved on with a lovely boy. Coincidentally, both girls are expecting their first child. Ruth's due date is a little earlier. I can't put into words how excited we are to be grandparents and adore both these children. I've been supportive and is involved with both our daughters' pregnancy as they want. However, last week Ruth drops a bomb on us. She said that if we ever see June again or her baby, she won't allow us in her child's life. I knew it bothered her that we were still on good terms with her sister, but this shattered me. It kept me awake every night. The thought of either of my grandchildren being deprived of loving grandparents is agonizing. I know Ruth was deeply hurt by June's actions, but I don't know if we should be punished just for not cutting our kid off. We begged her to reconsider, but she's adamant. I don't want to accept Ruth's terms, but it seems like no matter what we decide, we're going to lose a daughter and grandchild. So I'd rather it not happen because we outright chose it. But I also don't want Ruth to believe we'd just drop her in favor of June because again the thought crushes me. Would I be the a-hole if I don't comply with Ruth's ultimatum? Edited to add, thank you to everyone for commiserating with the situation. I wish I could say it's helped me feel better, but right now it feels like nothing ever will. Entirely too many comments to respond to individually, so I just want to answer some of the most common questions here. Why did Ruth and Adam split up? Ruth left Adam because he was immature and said and did things that irritated her, mostly minor things adding up. She said there was never any abuse nor cheating that she knew of. Did we ever support Ruth at first? Ruth stayed with us for a few months when it first happened. Not just because of this, there were other reasons. And we were there for her and comforted her the whole time. Because she was so angry, we had asked June to not visit until she left, though we still talked to her and met a couple of times in public places. We made it known that this hurt her sister and we were disappointed she didn't think of this. June understood and agreed with us supporting Ruth. She expressed sadness over losing her sister, but we clearly told her it was Ruth's decision to cut her off. Whether one thinks June did nothing wrong or not, it's untrue to say there were never any consequences for this. She's sad to this day that she's lost her sister and knows she has to accept and live with it. Did June ever apologize to Ruth? Both girls have confirmed that June reached out a few times over the years to apologize. No one put her up to it. Ruth didn't forgive her and she's well within her rights not to. We understand no one can make her accept the apology. Why didn't we just cut off Adam? He's June's husband and the father of our second grandchild. They're a package deal now. Once we cut him off, we risk losing June and our grandchild anyway, which is the same as what I'm trying to prevent. Some people have said I'm an a-hole for accepting June after this and that I already chose her by not cutting her off from the start. I'm baffled that anyone would suggest I should disown a child forever over this and act like she was never ours. Not disowning June doesn't mean I chose to be her mother over Ruth. Ruth said she was just fine with how we'd arranged things for the last 5 years. As long as she never had to see June, she was happy seeing us and everything was normal between us. It's only now that she's asking us to choose. Some people have said she should have cut us off from the start because we're awful and toxic. She's said many times she doesn't want to cut us off. She loves us and wants to be involved with her child, but she wants us to choose her over June because June doesn't deserve the same love and care from us. I want to add that if Adam had ever mistreated or cheated on Ruth, we certainly would have gone no contact or at least low contact with them. But that's not what happened, and both girls used to repeatedly tell us that what happened between them had nothing to do with us. Not Daeho. She's just making a final bid for control and using the baby as leverage. What happened to Ruth sucks, but she shouldn't be trying to take out her feelings on you guys, who sound like loving parents. Tell her that you don't like the ultimatum and leave the door open should she change her mind. Kinda weird she's still not over it after 5 years though, especially given the time between both relationships and the fact they're married now. Maybe I'm being naive having never been in a similar situation, but that just sits weird with me. I wonder what Ruth's partner thinks about it, if she has one. She can be over the ex. That doesn't mean she has to be willing to associate with someone who would betray other people in the way she sees the situation. Not Daeho. Tell Ruth that you will never turn your back on any of your children and that she's making the choice to not be a part of your life. Let her know that your door is always open, and as much as it hurts, continue to send cards, Christmas and birthday presents to your grandchild. She will most likely come around, but if she doesn't, you will know that you kept the lines of communication open while respecting her boundaries. I probably sound crazy, but thinking of this almost breaks my heart most of all. I know a few people who've been denied access to their grandkids who do this. The thought of sending gifts, cards, money, photos, etc. that will end up in some dusty box in an attic somewhere that our grandchild may never see absolutely kills me. They'll never know how much we love them and yearn for them. I'd wonder if Ruth would just throw everything away and there wouldn't even be any proof that we sent them or cared at all. If she asks us to stop sending them, we'd have to comply. But even if we get to shower June's child with love, I can never not think of the fact that we don't do the same for Ruth's. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that she is as bad as our father? I, 28 female, have an older sister, 33 female. Our parents divorced when we were 4 and 9. Our mother got full custody because our father was not a good person. Then our father kidnapped us. And from 4 to 16, I lived with her and our father in cult. It was your run-off-the-mill Christian cult. Homeschooled, forced to dress modestly, any type of independence is seen as sinning, etc. But when I was 16, the cops finally arrested him and we were reunited with our mom. The first few years of freedom were wild. We finally got to grow as individuals, experiencing normal life and face our traumas in therapy. My sister became a tattooed, pink-haired career woman. I went to college, worked for a couple of years, met a good man, and decided that being a stay-at-home mom is what I really want. Looking at me, you would think that I am embodying what we were taught as kids in the cult, but that's not true. Just find myself in dressing in feminine clothes, taking care of my home, my husband, and my kid. I'm unequal in my relationship. I know how to assert myself, and I am as far from what I used to be as my sister is. My sister, on the other hand, doesn't think so. She takes every opportunity we meet to try and save me. She tries to convince me to leave my husband and my kid, pushes me to get a job, tries to force me to go clubbing with her, tried to force me to get makeovers, etc. I finally had enough yesterday. She made a dating profile for me on Tinder, and she has been chatting with a guy and had set a date already. I was furious. So we got into a screaming match that ended up with me telling her, "You are exactly like Dad. You are both trying to change me to fit the idea of what you think I should be." She was shocked, didn't say anything and just left. Her partner told me that she had an anxiety attack and is ramping up her therapy sessions. And now I am feeling like an a-hole. Not an a-hole. What you said is exactly right. She wouldn't listen to you before. Sometimes it takes a verbal slap in the face with reality to get through to someone. Something that I've learned. The people who visibly rebel the most tend to be the ones who are the most similar to what they're rebelling from. The sister embodies this intensely, given her need for control. I agree, and for this reason, I'm actually gonna go with no a-holes here. OP, first, I'm really glad you're both out of that situation. Even though you and your sister went through it together, it sounds like the experience affected you pretty differently, which makes sense since you're two different people. Based on what her partner told you about your sister's reaction, it sounds like her identity as the rebellious one is actually pretty brittle, sort of like an emotional exoskeleton. What you said to her wouldn't have affected her so much if there hadn't been a kernel of truth to it. It was hard to hear, but the good news is that she was ready to hear it. I know that because she heard it. If she wasn't ready for it, she would have shut down instantly by lashing out at you, doubling down on the party girl thing, etc. She'd probably have quit therapy too, but that's not what she did. She heard what you said and recognized the truth of it, and she's dealing with it in an appropriate way. It would probably be good to let her know you love her and that you're there for her, but also to give her some space and follow her lead for a bit. I know this is upsetting, but it also sounds pretty healthy. I think you're both gonna be okay. The moment you start pretending to be someone else online, you become the a-hole. Opie's married. If her husband or anyone who knew her saw that Tinder account, she'd be receiving the heat of it, not the sister. Sister is an equal victim of the cult, but Opie didn't steal her identity online. That tips it to not the a-hole for me. She needed to hear the truth, Opie. Ramping up her therapy sessions is the best thing you can do right now. All the women I know in harmful relationships have careers. She needs to learn that's not a way to measure freedom. Definitely not the a-hole. It sounds like you are happy and secure in being who you want to be. It's not your fault that she can't see or accept that. It almost feels like she's overcompensating for the lifestyle you had growing up, while you've found your middle ground. For her to create a Tinder profile for her happily married sister, and even chat up guys as you, is wrong on so many levels, and crosses so many lines that I can't even find a proper word for my disgust. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not treating my stepkids equally? I started dating Daniel 2.5 years ago and we got married last year. Daniel has 5 kids with his ex-wife. Ava 11, Jason 9, Isabella 6, Sophia 5, and Andrew 3. Daniel's ex never liked Ava. She blames Ava for leaving her trapped in a relationship with her dad. When they got divorced, she said she didn't want anything to do with Ava. She was 8 years old at the time. Ava's mom leaving but having a relationship with her siblings destroyed her. She had to go to the hospital 3 times over the first 4 months. She didn't sleep nor eat and would have panic attacks at school. The weeks Ava's siblings were with her mom were the hardest, because it was a constant reminder that her mom loved her siblings and not her. She would barely get out of bed those weeks, so around 2 years ago, I surprised her with a day trip to the beach. I bought her a cute swimsuit, we got ice cream, we went boogie boarding, went out to eat, and went shopping. It was the first time I'd seen her smile in weeks. I noticed it was helping Ava, so we started to go out more and more. When our siblings are here, it's something small like dinner before therapy, but when they're not here, we go camping, we go hiking, we try new restaurants, we go back to the beach, etc., and she loves it. I don't spend nearly as much one-on-one time with the other 4 kids for 2 reasons. These kids already have a mom that loves them and they don't need it as much. It is so much easier to do anything with 1 kid than 5. When I spend time with Ava, I stick her in my Honda and we go. When I have all 5 kids, we take a big passenger van and they fight over everything. It takes twice as long to go somewhere because I keep having to pull over and break up a fight. I do take all 5 kids out 1 to 2 times a week when they're with us, but it's not usually a big trip like what I go on with Ava. We'll go to the beach 20 minutes away instead of the one almost 2 hours away. We'll go on the walking trail by our house instead of a 4-mile hike. Sometimes we have picnics in the park. The big thing this summer is the amusement park. I'll take all of the kids with their dad or their nanny. We go on some rides together, then one of us will take the older 2 to go on all of the scary rides they want, while the other takes the younger 3 to the kiddie rides that the older 2 are way too big and mature to go near. Then we meet up at a water park. We've done this at least once a week this summer. Recently, my husband asked me to start taking the younger 4 on day trips, like the kind Ava and I go on, because they're starting to get jealous. I said I'll try to plan more fun activities, but my trips with Ava aren't suitable for all 5 kids. He said I should try to treat the kids equally and either not take Ava or take everybody. I said I will, when he takes all 5 kids camping or on a 4-mile hike by himself. He called me a bad stepmom, so I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why doesn't their father do as much for his kids as you do? I think given the circumstances, you're not doing anything wrong here, aside from the misleading title. Their dad works a lot and travels a lot for work. They are his responsibility and he should make time to be with them. He knows that his ex is emotionally harming Ava and you are supporting Ava, but he is demanding that you stop? He is not being a good father. He said I should try to treat the kids equally and either not take Ava or take everybody. The kids aren't equal, and the other 4 have a mother. Ava only has you. Crazily enough, you got yourself in the position where you're Ava's adoptive mom and stepmom to the others. In fact, even though it make the issues worse, I might suggest you look into legally adopting Ava. That way you have rights to her if you and your husband don't work out. Not the Holopi. Your husband is callous and ridiculous. You need to have a serious talk one-on-one with the others. See if you can nip this complaining in the bud, if he is telling the truth, and this isn't originating with the ex as another way to destroy Ava. Not the a-hole. That poor little girl. You may not have come up with a perfect solution for helping this child, and it may be unfair to her siblings, but you are putting a hurting child first. She's lucky to have you. I agree with not the a-hole, but if anything Opie does is unfair, it is caused by the unfair behavior of the biological mother. Trying to help and balancing out an unfair situation should not be called out as unfair. That would be excusing the root problem. Next story. Am I the a-hole for forcing my ex to cancel his business trip so he can watch our son after his girlfriend caused our nanny to quit? I had a nanny, Cora, who worked for both myself and my ex. While my ex paid her, he left most of the decisions about her employment and how she would care for our son to me. Cora asked me if it would be okay if she could bring her niece with her to work while she cares for my son, as her sister was in the hospital. Her niece and my son are both close in age, so I thought it would be nice for him to have a child to play with. And Cora has honestly been a lifesaver for the 2 years she's worked for us. Things were great. Until Cora called me to tell me she was quitting. After my ex's girlfriend told her she couldn't bring her niece into his house. Even after Cora had told her I had said it was fine. I tried to convince Cora not to quit, but she said girlfriend spoke to her so rudely that she couldn't continue working for us. When I called my ex, he agreed his girlfriend wasn't wrong, but thought this would just mean I would stay home to care for our son and he would take care of us financially again. I told him he needed to cancel his business trip next week because our son is supposed to be with him from Thursday to Sunday. He told me he couldn't just cancel as the trip was important, but I was annoyed, so I told him that was too bad. And it was a good thing he was his own boss then because he had to watch our son on his days and he couldn't do that from the US. Now he's upset with me and his sister told me he broke up with his girlfriend in front of everybody because he was angry after our conversation. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. His childcare was lost due to his girlfriend and he is responsible for finding backup childcare during his parenting time. Most parents have to schedule their business travel when their children aren't with them if they don't have alternative care. So, he needs to parent. He didn't have good boundaries with his girlfriend about her minding her manners with the important childcare provider he employs, and now he has consequences. I hope you can give the nanny a good reference for her next role. She did not deserve mistreatment. Hopefully you find an excellent new nanny shortly as well. I will also add that his girlfriend was probably of the eye candy category, and not someone he really cared about. Plus, how entitled can the guy be? The nanny quit, so my ex will quit her job and take care of the kid? My friend broke up with her narcissist ex, and every single inconvenience he experiences in his life is her problem to fix. He got a flat tire while transporting their infant and toddler. He called her to leave work to pick the kids up because he needed to go to the tire shop. Never mind normal custody handoff would be the following morning. He needed her to take over parenting because he couldn't plan a better time to get his tire fixed. That did not interfere with bedtime. Her work doesn't matter to him. Her family issues don't matter to him. Since their toddler was born, she lost 2 close family members in tragic, unexpected, and untimely circumstances. And both times, she was in crisis. He returned the kids early or skipped parenting time, when you know damn well she needed a minute to grieve without babies. These people feel like we're all here to make their lives easier, not that they have responsibility for contributing to their relationships. His girlfriend created a problem. And he expected you to give up your life because he doesn't want to be inconvenienced by his girlfriend's actions? My question is, why won't Cora come back if the girlfriend is no longer in the picture? Is there more to Cora leaving? Because when you have worked for a family for years in an intimate situation like Nanny does, you do have a breaking point. I'm going to guess the girlfriend was not treating Cora very well in general. That this was discussed with the father multiple times and he ignored the situation until it got to this point. Even if the girlfriend is gone, the father was disrespecting Cora by even putting her in this situation and she got fed up. Now for the last story, am I the a-hole for not giving my nephew his birthday gift? Just bear with me for a moment. My 29 female nephew Josh, 12 male, is quite spoiled. His parents, my brother and sister-in-law, show blatant favoritism towards him over his younger sister Lou, 9 female. As a result, sadly Josh has grown a little entitled. He also is quite mean to his younger sister, because his parents never believe her when she tells him what is done to her stuff. Now, I'm usually very strict, and when the kids are with me for a weekend, Josh is usually on his best behavior. Now, Josh's birthday was yesterday. Lou had a spelling bee last week and she got first prize. Her parents brushed it off, but I was very happy for her because she spent hours learning each word, and I was very proud. So when I took the kids' day before Josh's birthday, so he could pick out a gift for his birthday, I got Lou a stuffed animal as a "you did great," while Josh picked this game that he's been wanting. The birthday party was yesterday, and when I went to their house, Lou had been grounded and was not allowed to attend, and the 2 friends she had invited were also sent back home. I thought it was extreme and asked what she had done. Turns out that Josh and her argued over the TV remote, and Josh went to her room and destroyed her stuffed animal that I gave her and told her she didn't deserve it. Lou screamed at him and my brother got angry with her temper tantrum and had her pick up the pieces of the stuffed animal and throw them in the trash, all the while she cried. She was then grounded. By the way, Josh's best friend was the one who spilled the beans to me and also told me that Josh goaded his parents into the punishment. I was furious and refused to give Josh his birthday present, telling him he didn't deserve it for being mean to his sister. I also told off my sister-in-law and brother that they're growing insanely cruel towards their young daughter. Now, my family is angry that I refused to give Josh his birthday gift. So, am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Make sure you let her know that she has family that does love her and cares about her, because she is likely to need that support as she grows. Be ready to be put at a distance and ready to support her when you can. I'd start to document everything and ask about guardian rights for Lou. Poor thing being so neglected. I'd have a talk with brother and sister-in-law over this favoritism. And if it doesn't stop, then not only will they lose their relationship with their daughter, but also consider talking to a lawyer about gaining rights for her. She is being neglected and the punishment she's enduring. Keep an open channel with her so she knows she's got someone on her side. Not the a-hole. His parents are just the worst. They are, and they are making a monster. Well done for speaking up. Awful parents. Offer to adopt her if you can as they are negligent. I hope you're around when she's a teenager and needs somewhere to live when they find an excuse to kick her out. I come from a family where sons are preferred over daughters. When my sister-in-law found out she was expecting a girl, she wanted to get rid of her, but she was too far along. I did offer to adopt her multiple times, but they have an image to maintain, and they refused to let me. My parents were the same with me. Wait, what? How? Can I ask what culture you come from? And why boys are valued so highly that your sister-in-law considered aborting her daughter? I'm extremely curious because I've never heard anything like that before. I'm South Asian, but we live in the West. I don't want to share too much because sister-in-law is very active on this thread. Good. I hope she reads these comments. She's a terrible parent. My sister ruined my relationship, now wants help. My sister, 25 female, and I, 21 female, have been on bad terms because she did something so heinous that I can't forgive her, even though we're blood relatives. My ex-boyfriend, 23 male, cheated on me with my sister. I've accepted that I might not have been good enough for him and that he wanted someone else besides me. When my sister and I were younger, we had a close bond, but as we grew older, jealousy became a big issue. If I had something, she wanted it, and if she didn't get it, she would go out of her way to get it. She's 8 months pregnant with my ex-boyfriend's child. When I found out she was pregnant, I vomited, because what sister would do such things to her sister? I've blocked her and everything, but my family wants me to contact her. Her baby's father is nowhere to be found and hasn't been seen since the 3rd trimester.
And I know this because my mother likes to gossip a lot and lets things slip out without knowing. I told her I didn't want to hear anything about my sister or my ex-boyfriend, but she insisted on me hearing everything. My mother once told me that my sister and her baby's father got into an argument because he was talking to other girls, and he put his hands on her and pushed her down the steps, causing her 3 fractured bones. But she still went back, and I don't know why, but she wanted him, so she has him. He never put his hands on me, so I'm not sure where he got it. He was never violent with me, so I don't know how it all became. But this was the start of their relationship, and I never got into it because I didn't care because she wanted him and they wanted each other, and I stayed distant. There was a time when she wanted to come over to my house after they had an argument, but I told her to not call me ever again. Then my mom called me the other day and said that my sister needs a place to stay because she can't pay her bills and will be evicted in 30 days for failing to pay rent. She doesn't have baby food, clothes, or anything for the baby, and she doesn't have any money. That struck me as odd, because you have plenty of time to shop for the baby. I suppose her baby daddy paid for it until he left? My mother and I argued, because I was not going to let her into my house, and told her she could stay at hers. But she said we were sisters, and needed to stick together. I can't tell you how angry I was when she said that. I hung up on my mother because I couldn't believe what she was saying. So when I was depressed and suffering from mental health issues as a result of my boyfriend's cheating, did anyone come to my aid? No. Instead, they consoled my sister. What irritated me even more was that my mother gave my sister my new phone number, and I kept getting messages, calls, and voicemails from her asking for my assistance. I texted her one thing and told her she should go find her baby daddy instead of bothering me to help her when she never cared about me in the first place. She wasn't happy about the text, but I didn't care. She went on about how I'm not a real sister and how she'll be poor. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Well, she is not a real sister since she decided it is a good idea to sleep with your boyfriend. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's not your problem she has no money else. It's her fault. Her stupid decisions and actions, not yours. Block her. Don't let her in. This is not your problem. Not the a-hole. Maybe also block your mother. My sister just became a single mom, and all of a sudden, it's important to support family according to my mother. No. They had 10 years to fix their act. I'm not breaking no contact because she needs money and surrogate daddy. Not the a-hole. She should consider placing the child for adoption if she is having that much difficulty. You're not accountable for it. Correct. But if we are being honest, the sister bond was broken the moment the sister betrayed Opie. If Opie's mom is so concerned about her poor pregnant mistress of a daughter, then she needs to open her own front door instead of her gaslighting mouth and welcome her child and soon-to-be grandchild into her home with open arms. 'Cause nope. Change your phone number again and don't give it to your mom. If you need to call your mom, you can create a Google Voice number to call her from so she doesn't have your direct number. Next story. Am I the a-hole for keeping the money my parents gave me to travel to see them because my brother was there? My brother was abusive to me growing up, in every way you are imagining. My parents covered for him and sent me away to live with family so they could take care of him rather than sending him to jail. I have not seen them or spoken to them in 10 years. That's the way I like it. My father is taken ill and he wanted to make amends. He wanted me to come see him. I said no. I did not have the time or money to take time away from my job. But my parents offered to pay for my trip and to make up for the money I will miss out on since I have no PTO. So I agreed, on one condition, that I did not want to see my brother at all. If he was there, I was leaving. He was there. I left. I had already made arrangements with a friend in that city just in case. It is a friend from university whom my parents don't know. I also blocked them on my phone. I spent the week enjoying my hometown and seeing friends and family, and then went back home. My parents thought the best way to handle it was to call me out on social media for taking their money to come see my dying father, then spending the time having fun. I did not see any of it since I was enjoying my life. But when I got to the airport, I did check my Facebook, and there were the posts and comments from their friends and family who did not know the story. So I replied that I had indeed accepted their money to come see my father, and the only requirement I had was that my piece of trash brother not be anywhere near me. I explained why I did not want him near me. I explained why he should be in jail. I explained that I was not involved in their lives because they got rid of me to defend him. This has started a massive fight with my parents and their friends and relatives. Mostly about them not telling people all the particulars about my brother and allowing him near children. And people saying that I should not air dirty laundry and that my father was dying and I was adding to his stress. I kept the money because I needed it, and I went like I agreed. Not the a-hole. I agreed on one condition. I did not want to see my brother at all. If he was there, I was leaving. This is called a healthy boundary. Bravo for setting it correctly and enforcing consequences when the boundary was broken. You're already no contact with them. Who cares what they say in social media? Plus, people are telling OP not to air dirty laundry when the parents did it first. Funny how it's okay in one instance but not in OP's. I agree. OP should clearly state to those people that she didn't air the dirty laundry and a trauma of 10 plus years ago until her parents used Facebook to try to shame her and she was forced to defend herself. Call out every victim shamer and then move on. OP sounds amazing. Not the a-hole. You gave them one condition and your father, 1, was the one who wanted to make amends. 2, didn't keep his part of the promise, so he cannot cry about the money. 3, he tried to expose you on social media. Not your problem he gets caught lying about what really happened since they took the initiative to make it public. 4, Funny wasn't thinking of being stressed or dying while trying to call you out on Facebook. To be fair, I'm pretty sure it was my mom posting. My father isn't big on social media, but she knew the deal. Still, she posted about a private situation to make you look bad, which took the private off the whole thing and could have an impact on your father's health as well if it keeps escalating into a live argument without social media. Consequences. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my stepdaughter's birthday party after my husband threw out the cake I made for her? I have been married to my husband Jeff for a year now. He has a daughter at 12 with his deceased wife. When I first met Jeff, it was obvious that he was struggling as a single parent. For my stepdaughter's birthday, he'd usually get a cake from the bakery. This has been the case since her mom passed away. I thought I'd bake her a birthday cake for her 12th birthday that was last week, as a gesture to show some motherly love and support. Jeff agreed, and he told me what his daughter's favorite flavors are and what she likes and so on. I baked the cake in the flavor she likes and the icing she likes. But one thing was missing, and that is the blueberries. And I couldn't include them because I went to the nearest store and they didn't have them. I was running out of time and couldn't get them, so I ended up just leaving the cake as it, thinking it wouldn't be a big deal. The party started, and Jeff was busy taking care of everything else. He then came into the kitchen and asked to see the cake before bringing it out. I showed it to him, and he got so angry when he saw that there were no blueberries on top. He went on and on about how I didn't fully commit to making the cake, and that he'd trusted me to take care of it, and just basically saying that he should have just ordered one from the bakery. We got into an argument and he ended up taking it and throwing it in a trash can. I was stunned as he said, "You know what? Forget it. I'll get one from the bakery." I blew up and screamed at him. He told me to stop, but I went upstairs, got dressed, and left. He tried getting me to stay, but I refused and went to my parents. He later called and then texted about how I overreacted and hurt him and my stepdaughter by leaving. Also said that I created this situation by not properly making the birthday cake just because I didn't put blueberries on top. I refused to respond, but my parents say he was justified, since he must have felt pressured from the stress of making his daughter happy on her birthday. He keeps trying to speak to me, but I don't respond. Am I the a-hole? Did I overreact? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You went out of your way to research what kind of cake your stepdaughter would want, put in the effort to bake a cake after agreeing with the dad on you baking the cake, and baked a lovely birthday cake. It was just missing one kind of deco because you couldn't source it in time. And it went nuclear and threw out your cake? Yeah, I wouldn't have stayed around after that either. It is a childish, vindictive, aggressive, and hurtful way to deal with what is saw as a less than perfect situation. He seems extremely overprotective of his daughter. She's 12 and would probably love this cake even if it didn't have blueberries. Even if she had noticed and said something, she could have been told the shop ran out. And at her age, she should be able to understand that and learn to deal with that kind of disappointment. Are you pushed aside in other parenting situations too? How is your relationship with your stepdaughter? It's only been a year and he already treats you like this? I'd reconsider this marriage. OP is not the a-hole, but also blueberries aren't in season, at least in the US. Her husband is aware of what month her season it is, since it's his daughter's birthday, and shouldn't have faulted her for the store not having fresh produce out of season. Not the a-hole. He threw away a homemade cake because there were no blueberries on it. And you think you overreacted? Has he had explosive reactions like this in the past? Because that's kind of scary. If he reacts this way over missing blueberries, what happens when something really goes wrong? OP this. I get it's his daughter's birthday, but he threw away the cake. And then tries to get you to stay, to have you there to blame, and says you overreacted? I'm sorry, this guy has some serious control and anger issues he needs to work through. You're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. 1. No cake in the history of cakes has been ruined by not having blueberries. 2. I've been around people who would get this anal about blueberries. It's never about the berries, it's about control. 3. Huge red flag. Watch out for how easily he comes unhinged about other little things. If it's always your fault, look up the characteristics of narcissist and see if it fits that bill. Here is the narcissist's credo. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my late father's wife I don't owe it to her to lie? My dad passed away recently. We had not spoken for more than 4 years. I, 22 male, was his only surviving kid from his first marriage. My mom and 2 siblings died in a car wreck when I was 9. My dad and I were in a car behind them, so he saw it happen but were not directly involved. After my mom and siblings died, my dad focused on moving on and finding a new wife. I met Trish 2 months later. They got married after 6 months together. Trish was a single mom of 2 kids and their dads were not around. So my dad decided he was going to step up and be their dad. He told me I owe it to them to be the best big brother and to learn from my brother and sister who had been amazing older siblings. I said no. I told him I did not agree to being anyone else's sibling and I would only ever have 2 siblings. He always said I would regret it and he told me he hated me. He had 3 more kids with Trish and I never tried to bond with them either. When I was 15, Dad and I had a fight that was sort of us done for good. He read my sister's diary on what would have been her 18th birthday, and he didn't like what he read about her friend having half-siblings and he took it out on me. After that, it was agreed I should live with my aunt and uncle. But Dad would still call sometimes, asking me to regret my lack of interest. Trish is the one who told me he died. She sent me the obituary via social media. I did not go to the funeral, but I did see her at my uncle's house. I left once they arrived because I was only there for my uncle. She tracked me down a couple of weeks later and told me her kids were asking about me, and she said I needed to speak to them and to try and be their older brother. I refused to do it. She told me I need to tell them I regret my actions and miss them and Dad, and want to be part of the family, and that I owe her that much after making life harder when I left, and leaving her with young kids who wanted to know why their brother wasn't around. I told her I don't owe it to her to lie and say something I don't mean. I also told her to leave me alone. She yelled, and I walked away from her. She then contacted me on social media again, telling me I should be ashamed for treating my dad's widow that way, and that I do owe her. I blocked her, but she attempted to reach out via my uncle then. She's clearly very angry. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole for not bonding or following her wish to try again, but please get the therapy. Your dad apparently neglected to get you back when your family died, so you can process that loss. The adults in your life really failed you back then. I started going to therapy last year. My therapist was shocked. It was my first time after hearing about the incident. Geez, the car accident alone would have been enough for almost anyone to sign their kid up for therapy. Never mind the garbage that followed. You would think, but no. Not the a-hole. Your dad did you a massive disservice by finding a replacement family so soon. This did not allow you any time to grieve properly. Your feelings, or lack thereof, are no one's concern but your own. She most likely wants you to be their older brother, so you can babysit them all the time. Yep, she doesn't care about OP or his relationship with her kids. She just wants babysitting, and probably will start asking for monetary help. She and OP's dad treated OP terribly. Not the a-hole. Your father chose to put himself over you when your mother and siblings tragically died. Rather than wait an appropriate amount of time and go through the pain of it all with you, he instead sought comfort elsewhere. He made it clear you weren't ready for that. He forced something uncomfortable on you and then emotionally abused you. It then sounds like he physically or at least emotionally mistreated you again due to the content of your deceased sister's diary. You owe Trish and her children nothing whatsoever. Those were her choices that she has to live with. They're strangers to you. It sounds like she and your father have gaslit these kids into believing they have some magical big brother out there, which is cruel of Trish and your father to do when they knew your feelings. But in no way should make you any more willing to become part of something you are, as I said before, a stranger to. It was emotional. He was yelling at me asking how he was supposed to tell his other kids about my siblings, when he had it in black and white that my sister saw half-siblings as lesser generally, and that she thought it's dumb to think you should love them. Again, all this was written about her best friend, and how my sister felt about what her best friend was going through. My dad said things to me after reading her diary that I never forgot, and he's dead now, and it's something I will never truly forgive him for. I'm learning to let it go, but it will always be something that made my already poor perception of him way worse.